Sisters and brothers, it's my great honor and privilege to introduce our International President, Leo Gerard.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, sisters and brothers, for that welcome. You know, this is the third time I've had the privilege of standing before you as your president. I can say that looking over this crowd and knowing the challenge ahead, it's a humbling honor, and I thank you for that honor and that privilege. Thank you. Because it's a great privilege to serve as president of the greatest union in the world, the United Steelworkers, the USW. Not only am I blessed to serve as your president, but each and every one of us in this room that serves our union also enjoys some blessings of another kind. We're blessed to have our families and our supporters that sacrifice so much so that we can do whatever it takes to make the work of the union positive and progressive. Like so many of you, whenever I see my kids or my grandkids and my wife after I've been away from them for a long time, I am thankful for their sacrifice and support, as well as for their patience and understanding. So I would ask you now to rise and pay tribute to our families for their patience, for their support that makes it possible for us to do the work of this great union. Let me take also a special moment to introduce my family. My wife of 45 years, Susan, my two daughters, my two beautiful daughters, Carrie Ann and Megan, as well as my gorgeous granddaughter, Alyssa, and my two son-in-laws, Shane and Blaine. Please stand. It's a shame when I come home, they're all better looking than me. You know, 3 years ago when we gathered here, the global economy was still in the dumps, and it's still not completely out of the woods. And it's not completely out of the woods because the shameless Republicans and the shameless Republican opposition to an infrastructure bill, a jobs bill, an increase in the minimum wage that would have created jobs, or almost any other piece of progressive job-creating legislation which President Obama has proposed, these same fools, knowing that it would have put people back to work, obstructed that and prevented those pieces of positive legislation from coming to the floor, prevented people from going back to work. Those same people, they were stone silent when George Bush lost millions of jobs. In fact, let's never forget that George Bush's last month in office, he left 700,000 less jobs at the end of the month than we had at the first of that month. But those same people can't stop vilifying President Obama, who's had 52 straight months of job growth after the economic disaster left behind by the Bush gang and their friends of one-percenters. In fact, sisters and brothers, we're still in the early stages of recovery from the disaster created by that bunch of Wall Street one-percenters who want to continue to rake in billions when they ought to be in jail, damn it. But instead of serving time, they're serving themselves to virtually interest-free loans from the Federal Reserve Bank, while thousands of working people are still stuck with unemployment checks and foreclosure notices. The too big to fail banks have gotten even bigger and more powerful, and millions of homeowners are still fighting foreclosure notices. These banksters are still trying to get more sweetheart trade deals, while our manufacturing jobs keep taking a beating, and they put all of our jobs at risk. In my native Canada, I never thought I'd see what I see now. Anti-labor governments and multinational corporations continue in unprecedented attacks against working people and our living standards. The failed right-wing policies are hurting families, creating greater inequality in both our countries. In fact, in the United States, we've lost over 6 million manufacturing jobs, and in Canada, we've lost at least 600,000 manufacturing jobs alone. And the outlook for unemployment is getting worse. The right-wing Conservatives in Canada have subverted collective bargaining in the workplaces, and the right-wing Conservatives have done the same thing in both our countries. Yet in Canada, they've intervened in negotiations. They've preempted job actions. They've imposed concessions on workers in the public sector that even the employers weren't asking for. In Canada, Harper's right-wing government has happily done the multinationals' bidding at every turn and blatantly pushed a low-wage economic agenda while launching an all-out assault on workers. And you know what, sisters and brothers? We're going to get a chance very shortly, in probably less than 3 months, to kick a whole bunch of undeserving right-wing nut jobs out of office in the United States, and a few months later we'll get the same privilege in Canada. Sisters and brothers, the bottom line, the greed of powerful interests in both our countries is still confronting our union and the labor movement with staggering odds. These one-percenters are attempting to cripple manufacturing, and the right-wingers are attacking every government effort to create new jobs. So let's not pretend all is good. In fact, we're up against it in almost every sector. As an example, since our last convention, as painful as it is, we've lost 40,000 jobs just in the paper sector due to unfair trade and consolidations, and that unfair trade is mostly by China and other Asian countries cheating on their export rules. Yet time and again, our members have done whatever it takes to squeeze some juice out of the lemons that Wall Street and Bay Street have dumped on us in these two countries. Sisters and brothers, doing whatever it takes to move forward goes on every day in shops big and small across our union. It goes on steadily every day as the work of the union gets done quietly. For example, in a very small shop in New Jersey, Keystone Folding Box Company, 54 members of Local 4107 moved the company from high-deductible health care to more affordable coverage, got decent raises in each year of the agreement, and then ratified it overwhelmingly. In Aurora, Ohio, at Rotec, a company owned by the giant Tyson Krupp, our members went on strike in January 2013. This is a giant multinational that makes billions of dollars in a little shop in Ohio. The major issues at that shop were taking away workers' pensions, huge wage concessions, and less health care, but higher contributions from our members to pay for that less health care. And yet the company went and hired scabs. They like to call them permanent replacements. The hell with that. They're scabs, and a scab's a scab is a scab. But with our union solidarity and the help of our international allies at Industrial, and in Great Britain, using Workers Uniting, and the German Metal Workers Union, we're able to negotiate a settlement that was just ratified a few days ago. That settlement included no concessions, and every goddamn scab got his ass kicked out of the plant. Excuse the language. I promised I'd watch my language, so that occasionally one will slip out. In Orica, in Canada, at Local 2020, we won a contract with substantial wage increases and signing bonuses, improved meal allowance, shift premiums, contract language, and contributions to our union's Humanity Fund. It shows that no matter the size of the unit, in our solidarity, we can make progress. But yet many of our negotiations are multi-plant with large memberships, and those negotiations draw a lot of interest. But our success at the bargaining table also happens literally at hundreds of small shops every day, and those settlements are crucially important to the members and to their families and to their kids. Yet we get that work done quietly and efficiently. Think about this. Think about this. Since we last met in convention, we've bargained about 5,400 collective agreements. And we've only been forced on strike during that period of time in about 45 of them, which means that 99% of the time we get a deal. I believe we get that deal through our strength, our solidarity, and the support we give each other through this union. 1% of the time with an employer who intends to take advantage of our members. So it seems that the 1%ers or right-wingers are there all the time, and their anti-worker gang are everywhere. But we are a union that works. We're a union that will do whatever it takes to win. So whether it's in a small shop or a big shop, we build on our solidarity, we build the community support, and we do the kind of work, and we do hopefully the contract action preparation so that when we go into negotiations, that employer needs to know, not just today, not just yesterday, not just tomorrow, but every day, we're going to do everything it takes to get a collective agreement that our members can ratify and be proud of, and we'll stand in solidarity. Our success in negotiations in those big shops also sends a message. It helps set patterns across industries. As I said earlier, time and time again, our members have done whatever it takes to squeeze some juice out of the lemons that Wall Street and Bay Street have dumped on us. And we every day get a chance to prove that we are a union that works. Take our members in our largest local union in the US, Local 8888 in Newport News. They were forced to bargain in a gridlock in Washington after a sequester that had cut the spending that they were going to have on ships. And in fact, there were days when the employer wasn't sure if they would get money to pay the wages because of the sequester. Yet our members at 8888 did whatever it took. They stood strong, they built solidarity in their ranks, and they got an agreement that increased pay by more than 14% and cut out-of-pocket health care costs by 15%. Now that's solidarity and that's bargaining. In national oil bargaining, our members did whatever it took again for 18 months to win new safety provisions. We mobilized to win process safety and fatigue provisions that the industry had stonewalled for years. And let me just say, those recommendations for that kind of progress came out of the Blue Ribbon research study that came after the Texas City explosion, just months before we merged with PACE. Our union backed our locals with help from our Health and Safety and Environment Department, our Communications Department, our Legal Department, and our Legislative Department. Now that proves that we have a union that works. And our new media team produced a video called Still Out of Control, a film that dramatized the horrors of the on-the-job accidents in the refineries, with members bearing witness. The members were themselves the ones in the video bearing witness to the importance of process safety. Yet in Washington, we turned up the heat on the oil industry by testifying at Senate and House hearings, and in the end doing again whatever it took that resulted in a landmark agreement. We not only won wage increases, we did it without paying a penny more for our share of health premiums, and we accomplished full-time union-appointed process safety reps that about time improved safety in those oil refineries. Now, that's a union that works. At Alcoa, our largest aluminum producer, we just ratified recently the best agreement we've got in decades. And the unity and strength of our bargaining committee, coupled with our Building Power program at the locals, made it happen. In steel, our members had their backs against the wall. Our members in the iron mines and the steel mills not only withstood the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, they faced and continue to face the treachery of trading partners who keep dumping products in our market. Yet, with unshakable solidarity, our members prevailed in bargaining with both U.S. Steel and ArcelorMittal. And despite the lousy economic conditions, we got pattern agreements that won improved wages, improved health and safety, improved provisions for retirement security, again proving that that's a union that works. In paper, sisters and brothers, in paper, we faced an even greater challenge. Our paper sector was in an economic catastrophe that led to one bankruptcy after another. In all, since our last convention, 10 paper mills have shut down in the last few years. But what did we do? We didn't moan and cry, we fought back. In our paper conference, in our council meetings, our members hunkered down. We created a fundamental change in the way we bargain. We restored leverage that had been stripped away by the vicious attacks by the industry in the 80s and 90s. We filed trade cases that saved the jobs of thousands of our members. We worked to save renewable energy credits and the biofuel credit that brought about $8 billion with a B, dollars of savings, and we used them to save pension plans, we used them to save mills, and we used them to save members of the alternate fuel tax credit. And then we went on to develop the largest health and safety survey in the history of the paper industry. We did that to combat the horrific rate of fatalities and serious accidents that happen in those workplaces. Now, I got to tell you, we got a lot more work to do. There's far too many of our members, far too many of our sisters and brothers who are dying. Far too many of them are getting injured and maimed. So we not only need to do that work in the paper industry, we need to do that work in every sector of our union. Our members don't go to work to die. Our members go to work to earn a living, and we're going to fight to make sure that that's what they get to do. Yet through our aggressive work with the paper companies in bankruptcy, think about what we were able to accomplish in some of these bankruptcies. We were able to preserve wages. We were able to preserve pensions. We were able to preserve vacations. And many of them, we not only did that, we saved the mills for our members' jobs, but often we got them to make additional investments to create a long-term future for those mills. We did that because we're able to prove that we're a union that works and will do damn near anything to save our members' jobs. That wasn't all we did. We restored their right to bargain for health care benefits that many locals had waived off in previous negotiations. We made a commitment to coordinated bargaining that built a firewall around their wages that led to improvements in health insurance benefits and reduced the cost that our members paid for those benefits. And to top it all off, we won successorship rights in more than 500 collective agreements so that when an employer wanted to spin off one of those plants, they couldn't spin it off to the low-cost bidder and throw our jobs and our contracts under the bus. We've stopped them from doing that shit, and we're going to keep stopping them from doing that shit. Those jobs belong to our members, not to some hedge fund manager or some bankster or some pocket-picking, latte-drinking, Gucci-shoed son of a bitch.